Hey there, Aubrey. How's everything going today?
I'm great, Lindsay. How are you?
Good. So I have a question
All
about
right.
plans, making plans. Do you feel like sometimes your plans get derailed?
Yes, this happens to me a lot lately because my brother is in town for the winter. He does an art show here, and
Okay.
we'll make plans, but I always have to stay flexible because often at the end of the day, he'll have someone interested in a painting and he'll need to do a
Oh,
home show to go and like show it in their home to see if they want to buy
wow.
it. And if that's happening, that takes priority over our plans. So he'll
Oh,
text and say,
geez.
just kidding, we need to reschedule. So I know it's always often plans are going to get derailed depending on his schedule.
Oh, no. Yeah, that can happen. Uh-oh, that's not good.
It's good
Well,
news though, right? That it's like
yeah,
potentially a big sale for
because
him.
he's
So I just
selling
have to know,
paintings.
like,
Yeah.
no problem. Let me know.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I mean, this is part of life, right? Especially when you have a lot of factors going on, family, work, social life. Maybe there's traffic going on, a lot of traffic in your
Sickness,
city.
somebody maybe gets sick, right? You never know
Sickness.
what's going to come up.
Yeah. So this is part two of a two-part series. What was part one?
Yeah, stay to the end for details. The first
Hmm.
word we're talking about today was highlighted in part one, which is upend. Upend.
Yes.
It
Oh,
came up
yeah.
in an
Yeah.
episode. It's an interesting verb. So we're going to cover
Hmm.
that one and other ways that we talk about plans getting changed, thrown off.
Yes. And this is why I feel like you learn a lot about someone when this happens,
That's a good
especially when
point.
you
How do they
travel with
handle
them.
it? Oh, yeah.
Yes, when you travel.
Because that's a good
That's-
point when we're traveling. Like things don't always go according to the plan. We have to stay
Nope.
flexible, and some people handle that better than others.
That's why I feel like before you marry someone, you must travel internationally in a
You
country
must
where they don't speak any English, like any version of English.
absolutely
Because
see how they treat people, how patient they
Mhm.
stay. Are they able? Absolutely. That's great
Yeah,
advice.
that's good advice for sure. All right, so we'll talk today all about how you can articulate this when this happens. What do you do? How do you act? Or when did it happen to you in the past? Right? This is what we're getting
Exactly.
into.
Yeah.
Okay,
What a fun
good
thing to
connection
connect
skill.
about, right? When this happens,
Yeah,
people want to talk about it. When plans
they
get
really
ruined,
do.
we
Yeah, you
want
can.
to share.
It can be some great stories that can come up, right?
Absolutely.
Depending
Yes.
on what happens. So start us off today, Aubrey.
All right. So first we're talking about this verb upend, which
Yeah.
means to turn upside down, literally, or we often use it figuratively when it means
Hmm.
ruin. So for example,
Yes.
the storm upended our vacation. It's kind of a
Yeah.
dramatic big word to use. It just means ruined.
It can happen. I mean, on the East Coast, we get these nasty hurricanes over here, right?
Mm.
Or, well, I'm not there anymore, but on the East Coast, especially like North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, they get crazy hurricanes. And
It
if
can
you
literally
book,
upend a house, a
oh
whole
yeah,
community, and is
oh my
definitely
gosh,
upending plans, both literally and
yeah,
figuratively.
that could have been a little bit of a pun there, right?
Yeah,
But
right.
we've had some really devastating ones for sure. So, or you could say, "Are you trying to upend my plan?" Now, this is asking someone if it seems like they're trying to sabotage what you're
Right.
trying to do,
And this is
right?
interesting because this word is less common in English for sure. You're more likely to hear, like, are you trying to ruin my plan or my plans,
Right.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
if someone is to use upend, they probably have a pretty good vocabulary, but they might be also doing it sort of playfully to
Yeah.
emphasize the ruining of the plan, right? Are you trying to
Yeah.
upend my plan? There might be like a
Right.
reason they're using this vocab.
Yeah, for sure. That's fun. Or derail. Now, typically when we think about the word derail, what do we think of?
Yeah, it's about like a train coming off
Yeah.
of its rails. A train can derail, but we
Yes.
also use it figuratively. It just means to
Hmm.
like stop progress or again ruin.
Yeah, exactly. So budget cuts derailed the project, maybe in the business world. What
Yeah, we
else?
use that a lot. Or when I got sick, our plans got totally derailed. Right? It just means they were
Hmm.
ruined. They had to be changed.
Yes, for sure. Sometimes you might get sick on vacation, right? And that's really a bummer.
That derails the whole trip.
Oh gosh, what a bummer. And what if you're going to something that's like a once in a lifetime thing?
Oh.
Yeah, it's tough if you have to miss
Yes, and
that.
that does happen, right?
That does
I
happen.
remember a friend of mine went to see Oklahoma on Broadway, and it
Oh yeah.
was I can't think of his name. That was what's his name? He was also on X-Men as like Wolverine.
Oh, I don't know.
He has
I
like the
don't know.
big chops. Anyway, he's also a singer. And
Okay.
it was a big deal that he was going to be on Broadway. And they went to New York. And I don't know if he was sick, but there was an understudy the day they were there. They were
Oh, no.
devastated. Hugh Jackman.
Oh,
I knew
Hugh
it would come to me.
Jackman.
You know,
Okay.
our listeners at home were like yelling,
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman at
They
their
knew.
iPod players.
They knew.
But anyway, I like was totally derailed. It really ruined their whole, because that was the whole reason they went, was to see Hugh Jackman in Oklahoma.
Yeah, and it's not cheap to go to New York and get Broadway tickets, get a
Right.
hotel, and all that stuff. Wow, that's not good.
It happens.
It happens. And sometimes we can use the word torpedo. Now, this is more rare, but really fun.
It is
Right.
fun. It's definitely exaggerating, right? So, of course, we have a literal torpedo, which is like a rocket that would explode. We use
Right.
this as a verb, and it means to ruin, often intentionally, right? So, for example, this relationship isn't working out. I think I'm ready to torpedo it. And that would mean
gosh.
I am going to like blow it up. I'm going to do something that's going to end it.
Yeah, not good. Oh my gosh. Maybe go to therapy.
Yeah, right.
Right.
It sounds just a very dramatic person. They're going to
Sounds like a
torpedo their
drama
relationship.
queen or king for sure. Or when negotiations stalled, they torpedoed the deal.
Yeah,
Right?
we
So
hear
they
this in
just-
business too, right? It just means they like ended the deal, they canceled the contract. We'll say this, they torpedoed the deal.
Yes. And I love this last one. This one is my favorite because it is throw a wrench into. Because we always think as human beings, that's our fatal flaw. It's like we think we can control things. Like we have an itinerary for a trip. It never goes as we think our itinerary will go, right?
Exactly, right? A
Usually-
wrench always gets thrown in. Something happens that throws things off.
Like she was late, which threw a wrench into our plans because all these other things were scheduled to happen based on her arriving on time, right?
Exactly, right? Maybe you miss a flight. You miss, who knows what could happen if someone's late. That can definitely throw a wrench in.
Well, I've always kind of wondered what happens there when if you, let's say you have like, because I remember when we went to Cambodia, we had a flight from LA to Shanghai. I think there were 3 legs. It was like Boston to LA, LA to Shanghai, Shanghai to Phnom Penh, or something like that. And I was thinking, what happens if we miss the first one? It throws a huge wrench into the whole travel plan.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I had a friend that went to Puerto Rico and they were late. So she missed her connection back to Arizona and there were no other flights that day. So I think they had to put her up in a hotel or maybe she stayed in the airport. I can't remember, but threw a wrench into everything. She ended up late getting back.
my
It
God,
threw
what a
off
mess.
everything.
I mean, the point here is go to the airport early.
Be there early. But then if you're on the plane, right? If the plane's late, it's not
Yeah,
your fault
exactly.
that you missed the connection flight. That's the
Yeah,
worst.
that's what I wonder
Totally out
about.
of
What
your
happens?
hands.
Like, who pays for the rebooking, right?
Right.
So,
Interesting.
anyways,
Or
any other
here's another
examples?
example. It threw a wrench into our plans when our passports never arrived. That would be terrible. I've been waiting
can't-
on passports to be able to go on a trip before, and it's so stressful hoping that they'll get there in time.
That's really stressful. Can't cross a border without a passport, right?
Yeah. And it
For
takes a
sure.
long time in the States for
Yes.
passports to be approved and sent. You have to apply for them well in advance.
For sure. Okay, Aubrey, let's break into a role play here. We're talking about travel because this really fits with travel. Again, it's the
It's
fatal
true.
mistake we make as human beings thinking we have everything perfectly planned. And it never
Exactly.
is.
Yeah, so I'm asking my friend Lindsay about a recent trip she was on. Ready?
All right. Yeah.
How was your vacation?
We didn't end up going, actually. That storm totally upended the whole thing. We waited at the airport for hours and then our flight was finally canceled.
Oh no, I'm sorry to hear it.
Then we rebooked, but I got sick the day before. We were supposed to fly out and our plans got totally derailed again.
Oh man, fate really threw a wrench into your trip.
Honestly, I was kind of glad. I didn't really want to go and I had tried to torpedo it when we first booked. Just too much going on, you know?
Oh, that's a glass half full kind of attitude there.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's really true. I think I've had friends that are like that when things go wrong, instead of being so upset about it, they're like, I didn't want to go anyway.
They
I'm
find
too
the good
busy.
Yeah, there is such a thing as overbooking your life because I have someone
Absolutely.
in my life that does that now. And that person's in Berlin and there's a lot of things to do right now in Denver.
It happens. And then you're like going to come back and be exhausted. You need a vacation to recover from your vacation.
Oh my gosh. So it's kind of cool when you have that mentality. You can find the good side. It makes life a little less stressful, right?
That's very true. Yeah, I love that. Let's go through this vocab. You first used that upended. That storm totally upended the whole thing. So meaning it like ruined it, turned everything topsy-turvy.
That's that's a more rare vocabulary word too. So it's fun to drop in these rare ones because you'll just be a more interesting person in a sense when you're speaking English.
Better vocabulary. It's interesting.
Yeah, and this one is descriptive, derailed, right? So next one, then we rebooked, but I got sick the day before we were supposed to fly out, and our plans got totally derailed again. Yes.
Yeah. And it's interesting if you look at this conversation, all of these things happened and I would be interested. I would want to know all these details, but you would need a different verb. You can't use the same one to share. And then this happened, then this happened. You need these different ways to say it.
Yes, 100%. And then the wrench one, which again is my favorite.
Yes. And this is a fun way to say it, to say fate really threw a wrench into your trip, right?
Yes.
Because then we're not blaming anyone. Like you just had bad luck.
Right. It just happens. It's the universe. It's inevitably going to do that to you. I didn't really want to go, and I had tried to torpedo it when we first booked. And this is a little bit more, I guess this is probably a little bit more intentional, right?
Yes. Torpedo is often about intentionally ruining something, right? So you probably wouldn't say at the beginning, like, the storm torpedoed our trip. You could, but it usually is collocated with something that was done intentionally by someone. It was torpedoed. It was intentionally ruined.
For sure. Wow. This is a good episode because, well, a lot of our listeners are world travelers. We know you guys love to travel. You have stories, but we know you have stories where there were mishaps, where things went wrong. Right, Aubrey?
Exactly. Yeah. We recently did a poll and it was 80% of our listeners said like they've had bad hotel stays. This happens during travel, right? Things go badly and that makes for maybe even a better story.
A better story. The funny thing about life is we know this. We kind of know we can't control everything and we know something's going to go wrong, but then we usually anticipate that it's going to be X, but usually it's something totally different. It's something you would never have thought about, right?
That's so true. Always what you're not expecting is what goes wrong.
Yes, it's great. So guys, go over to Business English. Don't forget that we have a whole other podcast, the Business English podcast. We recommend you check out the episode 547. Don't let homophones upend your vocabulary. That's the one that we talked about earlier where this phrase came up.
Part one of this series was over on Business English. So if you're not following Business English, you might have missed it. Luckily, you can definitely listen to these out of order. Be sure that you're following both podcasts.
Exactly. And any other final takeaway for today, Aubrey?
I love what you're saying. A lot of you are travelers, right?
Yes.
And you know people who love to travel, but things are going to go wrong. So we want to keep that, glass half full attitude. But also remember, as things are going wrong, this is going to make a really good story someday.
Yeah, exactly. Once all the annoyances are over and you're through the whole thing, you will have stories. And that's a good thing in life. Right?
Exactly. And then use today's vocabulary to tell that story in a fun way.
Campfire stories. Love it. So good. All right, Aubrey, we'll talk to you very soon. You have a good day.
Awesome. See you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.